Life with me, Julianne Williams. Today I have a really interesting guest, and she is going to teach you what she calls the SNAP method. So Coleen Greco, she is a joyologist, and I love that because we all go through so many things in our lives that steal our joy. She's going to teach us today how to take any situation and bring our emotions back to being joyful. So just real quick, let me do a little introduction of Coleen before I bring her on the show. Coleen learned how to overcome self-defeating thoughts and transform her life into an unimaginable source of joy. She is now a personal trainer, nutrition coach, and motivational speaker who helps others overcome their limiting beliefs and reclaim their joy. We have something in common, Coleen and I'm gonna let her share that. But in the end, our conversation and what really catapulted me to want her on this show was that she makes the choice to take difficult things and find a way to find gratefulness and appreciation. And that's kind of hard when things are tough. But she's got a really good method, like I said, called the SNAP method that helps her do that. So I'm going to bring her on the show now so you can meet her, and she is going to teach us a lot today. And matter of fact, I can't wait to learn. So here she is, Coleen Greco, our joyologist. I did tell everyone, Coleen, and welcome to the show, that you and I have something in common that I'm going to let you share, but also that you are an expert in taking things that are hard, and you've had some tough ones, but making them an area of your life in which you can find gratefulness. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you talk a little bit about you. And I also introduced the fact that you're going to share with us the SNAP method today. So
great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Julianne. And hello to everyone. I'd first like to say, just as a level set, that I don't believe in comparative suffering. So, my story is not your story, is not the person next door. So whatever you feel is your biggest thing at the time is equally as traumatic, difficult, or joyful, right? They're all even. I can remember back when I have two sons, and the one that I'll be talking about in a second, when he was a newborn, he was in the hospital and he was fighting for his life. And I can remember my brother-in-law calling and saying, "I'm such a jerk. My daughter has conjunctivitis, and I was just complaining that I have to stay home from work today, and it's such an inconvenience. And look at what you're dealing with." And I said, "It is your biggest thing. That situation of conjunctivitis, you don't minimize that because my situation may seem worse. This is the biggest thing you're going through at the time." So I have felt that way my entire life. But this son, now fast forward 10 years from that day, was being bullied in school. He was actually one of the most popular kids. So he was not the type of kid that you might have in mind as a bullying target. But things had stockpiled, and he made the choice to attempt suicide. And that was really difficult for our family to go through, especially because he was the floor right above us while we were home. So we were there. And you always think, oh, somebody wasn't home, it makes sense. No, we were home. We had just seen him when he did that. And so thankfully, I first want to say he's okay. He's now 16. He is stronger than ever. We are stronger than ever as a family. But that situation, as we were talking before we hit record, I said, you hit a crossroads, and you can either take a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn. So I can let that define me and my family and feel sorry for ourselves, or I can celebrate the fact that some intervention, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever, told us to stop and just take stock in what is going on right now, and what can we do to pivot right. So we made that pivot. It was really difficult in the beginning, I won't lie. We didn't have a single counselor that would return my phone call, so we had to pull out of this ourselves. Very unskilled in that area, I might add, but we did it together. We decided, we're going to band together as a team. Our unit got really, really small. I would not let anyone near us for quite a while, with the exception of a chosen few. But the child he is, or the man almost, he's 16. I don't like that sound at all.
I know, it's so hard to think about, isn't it?
He's still my baby. He's in this picture. The man he is now, it's just, I now look at that time in our life as God's greatest gift, that I literally got to pivot our lives, my own life included, and have gratitude for that period of time. And I would have never believed that was possible if that situation hadn't happened. So how can you find gratitude in a very difficult situation? I coach my clients every single day on this. It is possible, but it requires you to A, have trust in somebody who knows what they're doing, but B, you have to let go of what you believe to be true, because it's our own limiting beliefs that keep us in that situation where we feel stuck and sad and grief-stricken, and you feel sorry for yourself. You feel like, woe is me. Why me? Why not? Why did those kids have to pick on him? He was a good kid. It's because we could take it. And that's kind of the punchline of the whole thing is, you get chosen for these walks. They're not always fun, but you can find the joy if you really want it.
You said one thing that I actually talk with my clients about, because I'm a certified grief educator, and I talk about grief, and the comparative value is just not a thing that helps us. Our grief or our situation that we're going through, our struggle, is our biggest sorrow. It is our biggest challenge. And we don't have to lessen or diminish how it is that we're feeling. On the other hand, we can also demonstrate compassion to other people, no matter how we perceive their grief or their difficult situation. And I think I love that, because I think it's so important to value your own journey. Mm-hmm. You can't do that when you compare it. I say it all the time, comparison steals joy. And I believe that's what you're saying as well.
100%. And how could I get to a point where I actually have compassion for that family? How bad is their own self-worth? How bad is their own, situation that they feel this type of behavior is warranted? They can't even see the forest for the trees. And so we're lucky enough to be able to have that solid unit where we grew from this experience. And what we're seeing now, fast forward almost 6 years, they're not thriving. So you have to have compassion for someone like that. And, again, would I want to go through the whole thing again? Probably, because I know what it delivered us as a family.
So I want to get to that SNAP method, but I am going to say one thing. They have done studies that show that we pick our own troubles. If we compare to other people, we tend to pick our own troubles because we know that we've been able to get through them. And I have the same feeling about my issues that I've had and experiences that I've been through. While I would not choose them to happen to me, when I look at other things that could have happened, I take where I am, and I am grateful that where I am today. And I know that wouldn't have come without yesterday. So it's a hard thing to consider, because that means you're embracing difficulty. You're embracing something bad in a lot of ways that we perceive as bad. I mean, because it is bad. I lost my husband. On the other hand, I know he would be proud of where we are today, and he would want us to be where we are. So anyway, I love that. And there's so much we have in common around our feelings, and we didn't know that. So it's so fun to share. So the SNAP method, because to your point, we have to make a choice to live our life and to make a life worth living. Your SNAP method that you put together gives us a guide. And I would love for you to share that with the viewers.
Oh, I'd be happy to. So, the situation happened, right? And so in the beginning, we didn't know how to handle it. So what did I do? I ran to food and alcohol. I probably had 3 beers a night. As an Irish person, that's actually not a lot, but it was enough to just kind of quiet the noise. And I catapulted way up I've lost 52 pounds and kept it off for 4 years, but I probably had about 10 to lose anyway. So I probably gained 40. And I decided to work with a nutrition coach. And as I was getting towards the end and I had lost all the weight, I said, don't you want to know what caused me to gain all this weight so I never have to go back there again? We should be developing strategies and coping mechanisms, shouldn't we? And he said, I'm not your therapist. And I thought, nope, you have this wrong. You literally have just opened my eyes to a massive opportunity where I know I can help people. So this whole situation changed my life in more ways than I could even explain. I left my corporate job. I, got all the certifications. I'm certified in nutrition coaching, personal training, mindset coaching, you name it. And as I was, having this conversation with him and thinking there has to be a way where I can retire these limiting beliefs, these stories of, self-deprecation and doubt, so that I don't run to the pantry anymore. And so that day, I developed the SNAP method. It was just one of those things that came to me. I started writing and it just was born. And so S stands for stop. So when that trigger comes, when that limiting belief comes, that thing that just sets you on fire, you just stop. You don't try to control it. You don't try to judge it. Just allow it in. There are days where I welcome it.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are days where I'm like, not you again. But, it's really important. And immediately you grab your journal and you move to notice. And what I think is really important about the noticing step is, like, what is physically going on in your body? I want to know, are your palms sweaty? Is your heart racing? Do you get that lump in the base of your throat? Does your voice jumble? But you definitely want to make sure your phone, your laptop, anything other than your journal is not within reach, because this is not the time to send out that fiery text, blasting that person. You stop and you notice, and you just start to record it in your journal. And people, I have some clients that, roll their eyes at me and say, like, journaling, really? Yeah, really. There is a psychological connection between your brain, your hand, the pen, and the paper. And that is unbreakable. The pen will not lie, and it'll get you to the truth faster than any other modality. And so that was super powerful for me. I mean, I had some trauma with a brother of mine that I let go in about 2.5 pages. And that is something that had plagued me for years. And it was something I couldn't even talk about without crying hysterically. And so it's very, very possible. But once you identify what that trigger is and what the truth behind it really is, you can then decide what you want to do with it. So we move to A, which is accept. So you accept that the trigger has come. You accept that, maybe yet again, you ran to the pantry. You accept your journal entry. You try not to analyze it. You try to just give yourself some grace and say, I let it happen again, but what could I be doing differently next time? And I work with clients very deeply on this. It takes them usually 5 or 6 times before they feel like they can do this on their own. But my favorite part of the SNAP method is P, which you kind of already covered, which is practice gratitude. Have gratitude that the triggers came, because I feel very firmly that is what keeps you humble. That is the thing that you're like, I am still human. I'm going to have bad days. But it's instead of bad years or months, it might be weeks or days or hours. In some cases, it's minutes. In some cases, the trigger comes and I'm just like, I invite it to keep going. I don't need it.
Right.
And so when we do that over and over and over again, we are reprogramming our brain, because the ego, as important as the ego is to, keep us safe and protected, it doesn't know its limitations. And so sometimes it ends up kind of overdoing it and keeping us stuck.
I really like some of those points, and they really resonate with me. In terms of journaling, what I found is, for instance, when I wrote my first book, I had to relive everything with losing my husband and all of the events around that. But, and that, by the way, that was 16 years later, I think, that I wrote that book. But it is amazing when you do write it down, how it does allow you to release the emotions.
Mm-hmm. It's so powerful. And you get to kind of look at it and say, is that really what happened? Right? Like you can start to give yourself grace. It's almost like, you're on the outside looking in. And it's one of my favorite things to do now. And I just love to be able to get it on paper so that I can return to being present. Because the more I'm stuck in those limiting beliefs and in the past and the things that happened and why they happened, I'm not being present with myself or my family or my friends. And that's just not an option for me anymore.
Yeah, and that's our story around our story.
Yes.
Right? Which can be harmful, as you're mentioning.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
So I really do love that. And I also love the whole thing about the compassion, because I think that we are the most cruel to ourselves. And if we think about how we treat our friends, we should be treating ourselves just as nicely as we do our friends, right?
I tell my clients all the time, you are the most important person in this world. Without you, the rest of this doesn't exist. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important. One of my old stories that I've thankfully let go of was when I was 10, I had a cousin who was much shorter, but also just frame wise more petite than I was. And she called me fat. Now I'm 10, right? So if anybody out there knows what a 10-year-old girl is thinking, it's that was all the proof I needed, even though I was really thin myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's what she said, so it must be true. And so it took me 34 years to put on a bikini. Now I've always been physically fit other than that, period where I put the weight on. So, if you look back at those pictures, you'd say, well, you're crazy for not putting on a bikini. But I had every reason, every reason. I had all the proof. I had, that cute little pooch belly that we all know and love so well, right?
Yes.
But when I was 40 plus pounds heavier, I wouldn't have given anything for that cute little belly. But I believed what she said. And if you look hard enough for the evidence, you will find it to back up that story. And so I had a little ceremony for myself, my 10-year-old self, and I let her go and said, I'm so sorry for torturing you for 34 years. I couldn't be comfortable in a swimming pool or at the beach unless I was laying on my stomach. And I was always, tying my blanket kind of like high enough that the thin part of me would show, but not the belly. And I'm so thankful that those days are gone. But it's now turned into my mission where I want every single person within my reach to have the level of joy that I have every day. And you're absolutely right. It's a choice.
So, the SNAP method you put together, was there a moment? Because I know I can look back and there was a moment that I decided I really need to figure out my life now, the way it is now. Was there a moment, or, was that something that just came over time? I mean, like both of us had a really traumatic experience to bring us to this place, but were there other things that you had been trying to overcome that when this particular thing happened, that just catapulted you into change, or was it something that was gradual?
I feel like it was a catapult. I will pull the family later and see what they think, but
Uh,
I do think it was a catapult because I thought, number one, you can't go back. Once you know these new things that you can't go back to unknowing. And so you've just become a different person. I've also been my entire life just known as that really happy, really positive type of person, not in a fake way, very realistic. I mean, even some people will say, well, joyologist, you're not like the cheerleader type. Well, that's not really, we could get into
Yeah.
why, but that's not really what joy is about. Joy is like a state of mind, and joy is just like this choice. I don't have to be doing cartwheels, although I can, to be joy.
Okay, that's great that you say that, because not too long ago, and I'm older than you, I don't know what I was doing, and we decided to try cartwheels, and I did one cartwheel and I was like, oh my gosh, how did I do those? So hey, girl, I gotta give you a hand. Because that is an accomplishment.
Well, it also takes practice, because I was a gymnast when I was younger, and then I joined a CrossFit gym at the beginning of this weight loss journey, and they're very big into like handstand push-ups and stuff. And I was like, a handstand? Like, don't threaten me with a good time. I can do that in my sleep. No, I completely smacked my head against the wall and like fell over in the most awkward of situations. And the coach was like, I thought you said you were a gymnast. I'm like, I am. Okay. And I'm going to master this.
That's right. I love it. You just made me laugh. I thought, oh boy, I remember my last experience of doing a cartwheel. It wasn't great.
Oh, you're just out of practice. You're just rusty. But no, I do think it was a catapult. I think, when things are part of your calling in life, it's there and you just don't necessarily see it. Well, I think it got put straight up in my face and I had no choice but to go that direction. But my father used to say my entire life, I named you right. So Coleen means girl.
Okay.
I'm a girl. Joyce is my middle name. That means happy. And he always used to say, like, you're such a happy girl. And I was always in service to others. So for this to be kind of my calling made complete sense. I'm always happiest when I'm helping out other people, when I'm helping them see themselves in a way that, the rest of us see it, but they don't see it. It's when I am most authentic and, just completely full of gratitude.
I love that. Now, you have an ebook that you're going to offer to the viewers and the listeners of this particular show. And so I'm pretty excited about that. I can't wait to download it. Do you want to talk for a minute about, number one, how we can get it, and then also just maybe a glimpse into what we might learn?
Yeah, I'd love to. So the ebook is called Joy in the Smallest of Moments. And I think what's really important about that is, I'll start off with a client that I'm coaching, and they'll say, like, how do you just wake up and you're just happy? Okay, now I don't think I woke up that morning feeling incredibly blissful, but I was able to say, he survived. Okay, that's something, right? Because, in the moments after the trauma, it's all about that next second or that next minute. You're not thinking about next week. But over time, just like chipping away, like an iceberg or the layers of an onion, you start to be able to look a little further out. And so Joy in the Smallest of Moments is just sharing how you could make some tiny changes in your day to experience joy. But then the more joy that you get to experience, the more that you want it, and the more you feel that gravitational pull towards activities like that. And the less you will tolerate the toxicity and the negativity and all of those yucky feelings.
Right.
You won't make space for those in your life. You suddenly fail to follow up with a friend that maybe fit the yucky feeling, right? You just sort of like pull back. And so I didn't become this way overnight, but I would say within the first month after this all happened, I had more joy in my life than I have ever had. And it was more because I get to live this next day with these people, and I can waste my time going back through the situation and what could I have done? It doesn't matter what I could have done because I didn't, right? That didn't happen. So I'm not going to waste time. I'm going to spend my time saying, what are we going to do tonight that is fun and makes us feel connected as a family?
Yeah, so, rather than staying in the old story. And also, I mean, that probably begs you to forgive yourself, right? Because you can't move forward without, when you do look at the shoulda, woulda, couldas, because that's what I call those.
Oh, yeah.
You sort of have to forgive yourself to say, I didn't do it, but I didn't know, or whatever it
No.
is, you know. And so I want to do the future like this, but it's a tough choice. I mean, people have to understand that it's not always easy. It's not like I'll just flip a coin and I can make the decision. It is hard. I mean, it takes resolve.
Absolutely. There was a woman who came into my life not too long ago, and her husband had a similar story. And she said, I should have known. I mean, even saying it right now makes me want to cry. No, she shouldn't have known. The only way she should have known is if he specifically said that to her face and she was making eye contact. Then yes, perhaps. But there is no blame. There is no understanding it. For him, I really hope it is a one-time occurrence and it was an act of impulse that he realizes wasn't the best choice.
Mm-hmm.
But, I just have to trust that we're doing everything we can. He's doing everything he can, and his brother, to, live their life to the fullest for however long that is, because we also don't have any other guarantees other than this very moment. So I'm going to spend all of my time here enjoying it, because something could happen tomorrow that could, drastically change that path.
That's right. Life changes in an instant. It certainly does. All right. So, all of my guests get to answer a question, and you may have alluded to this a little bit here and there, but I want a real direct answer so that I can learn something more. I've learned so much already. What is it, when you look back, that you did to step into your life?
Oh, okay. I like this phrase. It doesn't make a lot of sense initially, but I always tell people to run towards their turkeys.
Okay.
Right? So I have a story back from when I was pregnant with my first one, that I was having a difficult time at work. The CEO kind of had his targets. It was you this month, you next month. There was no rhyme or reason for it. And I was at 7 months pregnant, his target that month. So I kind of blew up and said, I'm not going to take this. I ran out the front door without my keys or my cell phone. And there's a flock of turkeys right at the front door, and they chase me.
Oh, no.
And I'm trying to outrun the turkeys and everything. And just had, that kind of became, an analogy for my life. Like, I would just kind of run away from those things because they didn't want to deal with it. But several years later, I was running in our neighborhood and there were turkeys in the street. And I was like, it is not happening today that I am running away from these turkeys. I need to go through them to finish my run. So I'm going to run towards my turkeys. And that's essentially what I did. Was I realized very quickly that I am the architect of my life. I am the one that, defines my happiness. No one else does, much as that would be nice sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I quit my job in corporate and went full steam ahead into this lifestyle. And it is the greatest decision I ever made. Was it terrifying? Yep. I let go of a nice income, but what I got in return, I mean, you can't put a price tag on that. And so I would say that's how I stepped into my life. I got really uncomfortable, but I embraced that feeling of uncomfortability because I felt like alive for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that. That's awesome. All right.
So how can people find? By the way, turkeys fly. I want that on this recording. Didn't know that. That would have been good to know.
Oh, that's so funny. You're like, they were chasing me and flying. Oh my, it sounds like that movie, whatever the birds or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Sounds horrifying. But now I'm going to think about that all the time now. So,
yep.
All right. How can we find you?
Oh, well, that is a fantastic question. So Instagram, I think, is the easiest way. And my handle is at the Coleen Greco. My name is spelled uniquely, COLEENGRECO. Of course, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on Threads. I'm on all the social medias, and my website is ColeenGreco.com.
Wonderful. Because if someone wants to get coaching from you, I want them to have the opportunity to find you.
Me too.
Yeah, because I've learned, again, so much today. Well, everyone, I just want to say thank you for joining Coleen and I today to learn about joy. And I have a few takeaways myself that I cannot wait to implement. I guess I'm going to have to think about running to turkeys. So now every time I see that, I'm going to be thinking, and I live in a rural area, so I may see some, you never know. So I get to think about it. But truly, I appreciate your time today, Coleen. You really brought a lot to us around practical ways to find joy, not just saying, be happy. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. So thank you again for joining us, everyone. Join me again on the next episode of Step Into Your Life, and we will journey together.